Okay, we have the Polymega back in the news with an official announcement and pre-orders live. Ian, as a reminder, the Polymega is a modular retro gaming system, modular with a base and other modular attachments you can get. Originally, it was the retro blocks. I saw an early working prototype of the CD base back at SoCal Retro Gaming Expo in January, February of 2017, and they've showed it at E3. There's been information about it. They claimed hybrid emulation. I think we discussed it briefly in the podcast one time.
Yeah, we did.
Hybrid emulation, which was going to be a combination of software emulation with FPGA running some of the background stuff, like ROM loading and like accessory things like that, but not actually for the running the games, so that running the systems. So we had an announcement and pre-orders come on about 5-6 days ago from when we're recording this, with the official launch trailer coming on September 4th. So about a week ago, actually. And there's been some buzz about it, both positive and negative. So we're going to try to cover what exactly this console purports to be and why certain people are upset about things they're learning about, and I guess our take on whether or not we think this is for us and whether or not we think this is something that the marketplace is going to want is the best way I can say this. So what do you get here? So you get for $250, you get the base unit that you need to run the modules. So the base unit is what I would be personally most excited about.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't exist widely. Now, there is something like the CD that comes out that's like a CD emulator system. So this will be the first one to wide market to be a CD-based unit to run disc retro systems. So PS1, Turbo CD / PC Engine CD, Sega CD. So that's a good part of the market, and they announced Sega CD as well.
Sega Saturn.
Excuse me, Sega Saturn as well. So that's a good chunk of the ones to get you on your retro CD disc playing ways. In PS1?
Yep, you said PS1.
PS1. So,
Saturn's a huge one. Saturn, there has been, that's basically unheard of. Saturn emulators have
always been shoddy or bad.
Yeah, shoddy or bad. Just, getting to the point now where there's, something that's, getting close to workable. And so the announcement of that on, the Polymega, provided they could do that, is, that should be hugely attractive to potential customers
if it's figured out.
And
but we're not sure if it will be figured out.
But we're getting there.
Yeah. So that's really the crux of this. The start of this conversation we'll constantly come back to is what is this system providing, and in essence, what you have is an emulation box with a way to get the original, use the original physical media through the emulation. So it's not that dissimilar in theory from a Retron 5 or a Retro Freak, which is basically a Retron 5 plus Turbo / PC Engine HuCard games. So when you look at it on the surface, that's what this really looks like.
Yes.
I don't think many people are denying that, because it's not like the people behind Polymega are going out and redesigning their own emulators. These are going to be off the shelf, getting licenses to off the shelf open source emulators, as far as I have seen. So in terms of that specific one that people are excited about, Sega Saturn, the reason that people are excited about it is because there hasn't been a great Saturn emulator until now. So unless the team comes out and says we are designing from the ground up our own FPGA, and we'll get into that, or our own Sega Saturn emulator, to me it's not a huge deal on the surface, unless they're really coming in with something that's already not there. Is it an emulator that I can't currently get? If not, well, what's the huge deal to me at that point? Besides putting it in a nice box with the rest of it, which, like I said, there is an appeal there, because we always talk about, how are you going to be playing these games in the physical real version in the future? And I don't know if 20 years from now people want to find a crusty old PS1 that still works. And find a good way to hook it up to an HDMI cable or the VR cable or hologram cable 20 years from now. So this is a
hologram cable adapter.
So for me, there is a market there for these CD-based systems. $250. now we're sort of, I think, stretching, I think, the appeal out, and you're really then defining a more niche market for this console.
Yes.
Because $250 isn't the casual retro market anymore. That's sub $100. When you look at
$150 for something like that, I think would even be fine to capture a good number of people. I mean, the Retron 5 actually sold. I mean, despite what people think of it now, Retron 5 sold really well in that 150 price range.
Oh, sure.
So I don't think I don't think things need to be under 100, especially if it's going to offer CD based. But I think 250 is outside that realm. I think for something like that to sell well, it would need to be, a lot of that stuff still ends up kind of being almost impulse purchasing or at the moment purchasing.
Well, the whole point is that, like, when you have all the HD, NES, and Super Nintendo, and I think Genesis ones you have now, you can get reliable ones for under $50.
Yeah,
like you can just get them. I'll get the Genesis one. Once you get to the $250, once you get to the price of a modern console, now I think the market becomes more limited.
Sure. Also, people would look at it and possibly think, oh well, I'm paying that for all the paying that for the the expansion opportunities, et cetera, and I'm not going to use any of that, so I'm going to go find something else.
Or then you have to calculate out how many expansion ones will I want, what's the price of those. So the expansion modules right now, they're offering 4 at the start, and they are $60 each. So they have one, the power, that they're named differently, the power element module kit, which is, let's see, that's the, I guess, NES/Famicom one. And each module has, obviously, the input port for the controllers as well as for the cartridge itself or media itself. So you have that one. You have one, the Mega one, which will get you Mega Drive/Genesis and 32X. You have the Super one, which has Super Famicom and Super Nintendo, obviously. And then you get the Turbo one, which is the one that excites me the most, obviously, because we don't have, besides the Retro Freak, we don't have something that is easy to play these in a modern way. And that is Turbo / the preferable PC Engine moniker.
Sweet.
So you have that. So what are you looking at here? So they're offering, you can buy it for $250. If you're going to buy all 4 of these by themselves, it'd be $240. Pat math, both together, that'd be what was that? $490. Is that what that is? $490. But if you get the bundle right now on the website, $520. My Pat math is off. $520. If you order it early, it's $460 if you pre-order now. By the way, this stuff is supposed to ship on a date of April 1st, which I'm not sure what significance that has, but that's the date that they have that they're going to be released. April 1st, 2019. Personally, if I was doing the marketing and PR, I would not have chosen April 1st as a release date.
No.
I would have said, hey, well, wait till the 2nd or 3rd. Just because.
Especially not for a modern, a new
system.
Console.
Not in terms of this marketplace and its history with the VCS and the Chameleon. I would not have chosen April 1st. That's just me. But okay, most people won't care. So once you get into how many people are going to be spending $520 if it's after this pre-order part, now I think you're extremely limited in terms of what's out there. And we get into the other conversation that I've spoken about with you over the past year about, is that, is this concept too far removed from the initial point of interest when the Retron 5 came out? For example, that was, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, thereabouts.
3, 4. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
Since in the past few years, we've had the Retron 5. We've had the Retro Freak, which is the Retron 5 Plus Turbo. We've had all the Analog NT and the Mini NT and the Super NT, which are FPGA. And so those are more accurate than emulation. And those are the same sort of market where you're going to spend hundreds of dollars, but this will be the best experience you can get modern-wise for Nintendo and Super.
And then on the other end, Hyperkin did the, they've got the Retron 77, the Retron HD, which is just the one-off, no emulation, well, no, Yeah, no emulation based. It's just HD one. Basically, there's no save states and stuff like that. So
Sure.
no hard drive. It's not doing the ROM ripping or anything. And then there's the Super Retron HD, and like the Retron HD is
There's the NES HD.
yeah. So the
Multiple
so
companies
you
have
can
those.
so basically like now like yeah. So a lot of companies have those. So now you can take the Retron 5, what made the Retron 5 so appealing to people, and now they've parted that out. They've broken that down. I mean, a Retron HD, and I'm sure the comparable units from other companies, it's $40.
The guts on these are the same, and then multiple companies put them
But
out.
$40. I mean,
I've seen it cheap.
so
I've seen the NES version with the Zapper for like 30 with 2 controllers. It's like, well, that's an impulse buy. That's like a no-brainer.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't need all that stuff. You shouldn't have to. The main appeal of the retro blocks, being are the Polymega. Yeah.
Retro Blocks, by the way, they had to abandon name because I think of a trademark of Blocks, BLOX, so they had to change it.
The neat appeal of kind of picking and choosing the units you wanted. Now you can do that without this base unit with pieces that are roughly the size of these attachments. And now,
these modern HD little systems are small. They're not that big.
Right, they're very tiny.
So you're not saving space. You're not necessarily saving money. It's not really the convenience necessarily. You have to plug in new cables, but you can probably just you're really buying.
And now you're not getting accuracy anymore because we're gonna get there.
Yeah. So what they're hoping is that you buy into this ecosystem of products, where once you buy the original attachment for $250, now we have these 4 coming available, and then maybe down the line we'll develop more, like we'll do an Atari one or Neo Geo one, or you're buying into this whole platform, so to speak, which we haven't seen before. We've seen one-off products like the Retron 5 that people like, people don't like. I reviewed it when it came out. I liked it at the time. Other people had problems with it. I had a dead-on-arrival unit. That said, it got the job done for mostly what I needed at the time. So for this, though, you're looking at taking that concept, but in a higher quality, I guess, pastiche, with a better user interface and the ability to do other things. By the way, they took away the ability to stream on Twitch from it, which I thought was interesting that they did that. But that's really what you're looking at in terms of the marketing. When you look at these pre-order videos, Indiegogo, Kickstarters, you have to understand that anyone can do a flashy video. Anyone. It could be any product. It's all CG renders. It looks smooth. It looks slick. It's marketing. So that's good and bad. It's good that it's showing you the concept. It's a concept, but that may not be the final experience or product you're getting. So you have to be careful. You can't. It's especially when you have a company that they don't have a history of past products that to say like, oh well, we had this come out, so we know what we're doing. So I caution people to be careful about this. In terms of the marketing, I'm not disturbed by it. I'm just sort of disappointed that they would tout 30 compatible systems on their website when it's really not 30 systems. Because they're splitting out like PlayStation, PlayStation PAL, PlayStation Japan, Saturn, Saturn PAL, Saturn Japan. No one in the retro gaming community actually looks at these as separate systems spread out across regions. No one says like, well, the Super Famicom is different than the Super Nintendo. It's like, well, not really. They're the same. They're the same. So when you actually break down how many systems that they're offering through all the modules, it's really about, what do you have, like about 11, 12 at most, it looks like. Oh, Neo Geo CD is one that we forgot to mention.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be supported as well with that base unit. So that's not the poo-poo marketing, but again, know what you're buying when you're looking at this and being studious about what's there. So now, Ian, do we want to talk about the whole semi-controversy? Why can't one of these get announced and everyone's like, oh, this is going to be cool? And now there's like people arguing about the specs and things like that. So why are people kind of concerned now about this product?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think caused some concern is simply, basically, it was touted as being one thing, and then on the day that the pre-orders started, there were suddenly some changes. Basically, the thing was always touted as being this hybrid emulation of some sort of FPGA and emulation combo. There was supposed to be accuracy to how the games ran on the console. They talked about the Twitch integration, this, that, and the next thing. When pre-orders went up, I believe that was also the same day, or it was a day or two before, that they tried to do an info dump that basically pertain to the Twitch service being removed. FPGA is out from the main unit, and it's only going to be included on a case-by-case basis for certain modules, and that's only going to be used for basically, as far as they can tell, controller input-output. Basically, it's only going to be there for compatibility of controllers and things of that nature. Is
that also they announced the software architecture was changing to Intel-based?
Yeah, software architecture is changing. If I believe that's correct.
Or that's what they announced. They announced the final specs.
Yeah, they announced the final specs. Basically, nothing is as it was
for the 2 years that they were talking about this.
Yeah.
And so people were sort of blindsided by it.
Exactly.
And if people really want, the lowest latency the most accurate experience, then you'd want the FPGA, obviously. But that's hard to get on all. They don't exist for all of these yet. FPGAs don't exist for all of these. So that's when they always did hybrid emulation. I was always in my head scratching my head because, well, if it's software emulation that you're really doing to play the games, then what's the advantage? But I guess in terms of offloading some of the workhorsing via FPGA to other parts of the console, then I guess you would get closer somehow. I personally never bought that marketing message of hybrid emulation. To me, that's not really a thing, at least in my eyes.
I think I called it bullshit on when we talked about it.
Directly bullshit? Yeah. You use that subtle term?
Yeah, I think I was, subtle about that.
So to me, if I never bought it, or bought into that concept, to me, it's not a big deal. But to those that was a main sticking point of having FPGA in some form, and now you're taking it away, I can see how some potential people that would pre-order it could be bothered by it. Absolutely.
Right. I'm trying to find the quote here. It was pretty bad. Basically, they were trying to play it off in one of the chats, I believe it was on Facebook, where they stated that hardware accuracy was snobby and not important, and only something very few people were looking for.
Well, no. A lot of people were looking forward to that. That was the main marketing message.
Right. Otherwise, you were just getting a Retron 5. That's why
you were getting probably a better made Retron 5 box emulation machine. Like that was what you were getting.
Right.
So I don't understand that.
And 5 included games with each module.
Oh, they're going to license 5 games for each module?
Yeah, there's supposed to be 5 games for each module.
You do get the one controller with each. And they are doing their own controllers, and I guess they look okay. There's a 6-button Genesis one. They have an NES one with 2 buttons. They have the one that comes with the base unit, which is like just your run-of-the-mill, modern D-pad, Xbox One looking, pad with 2 thumb joysticks and triggers. Like that's common. I actually like the turbo looking controller. I think it looks nice. That actually could be a nice replacement at only $25. However, Ian, it's a 6-button turbo controller. They decided to put the select and run buttons on the top of the controller instead of the bottom, and you actually use that button those buttons on some games. And they put the turbo toggles on the bottom. I just don't understand that. Now, when you go to 6-button mode, I think the select and start become 2 of the buttons, so I guess that takes care of that. But still, you want the real feel of that original controller there. So that's I'm actually more interested in that right now, is that controller.
They were they got caught using and this is always such a bad thing.
And they admitted to this.
Yeah, well, they admitted once they got caught.
Oh, okay. I was going to give the benefit of the doubt, but okay.
No, they admitted once they got caught. They got caught using emulator footage in their launch trailer.
Arcade footage.
Yeah, well, emulated arcade footage in their launch trailer for it was Sega Rally. They used it was captured from the Model 2. Using the Model 2 emulator. It was the arcade footage from it, and they snuck it in. And it was a fairly brief clip, if I recall. And the viewers discovered it almost immediately. they were like, that's arcade footage. And there's the interaction right here. I believe that, yeah, this is Twitter. I was considering pre-order, but you guys have yet to address the usage of Model 2 emulation footage for promoting the Sega Saturn compatibility.
Oh, man.
After the whole Coleco Chameleon fraud,
Oh,
I'd like
man.
some sort of reassurance before I put any money on this console. Will we get an explanation? And Polymega replied, feel like we've explained this about 20 times. That's not how you come at it.
That's not good PR. I think these companies, the problem with
You
these
can just
companies,
put a link there. Like, that's fine. Like, addressed here. You know?
we understand your concern. It's addressed here.
But there was an accidental use of an old video not from Saturn in the trailer. Why people don't say anything about the Panzer Dragoon footage immediately afterwards is kind of beyond me. Because you need to talk about the part you screwed up. Like, you can't deflect. And then there was another somewhere else on the Atari Age message board.
You know what, Atari Age? It's been a while. You're like a good friend. Come back into our into the life.
There's another point where Polymega addresses it and says something like, "Oh, they accidentally grabbed the footage from the wrong folder," or it's just
the people that are putting together the marketing video.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not even gonna. If that's the case, you know what? Okay, that could be an honest mistake, but that just underscores the precarious nature of the Sega Saturn emulation going into this. To me. Because if they say, oh, it's going to have Saturn emulation, and people are expecting 100% compatible smooth emulation like you would get on a Super Nintendo or PC Engine emulator or NES, you probably aren't going to get it unless the people working on that Saturn emulator, fix it. Because if it's an emulation box, they're only as good as the emulators that can be thrown into that box if they're not doing it themselves. And I think that's the larger point here. When it comes to that, it's like, yeah, it's exciting, but what's the difference between loading up a Sega Saturn emulator and putting the disc in my drive and playing it? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get a different experience. It's just the housing's different at that point.
We're still trying to figure out what amazing Sega Saturn emulator they're using.
Well, that's the thing. There's probably one of the two that you actually can use out there. I haven't been up my Saturn emulation in a long time. Because all I know is back in the early 2000s, trying to do it didn't exist. It didn't exist well from what I remember. So that's something to just be wary of. Yeah, when you get the other ones, Sega CD should be fine, and PC Engine CD and Neo Geo CD. Okay, but if people are getting excited about Saturn, they're getting excited because right now they can't do it properly. So unless Polymega says we are solving that problem, maybe you should hedge your bets a little bit on it. Just a little bit at least.
Right. Adding it in a less than perfect form just keeps you where you're at. A less than perfect form on a console that you're hooking up to your TV is the same as doing it on your laptop and plugging it in. Oh, and here was I was looking for this earlier. This was, this is the screen grab. This is a comment on, I think it's Facebook, that really kills the accuracy thing that they were initially, I think, trying to go for. People were excited about. Sorry guys, you'll also notice that Twitch is out for now for the same reason as explained in the FAQ. In short, you/we can't have it all, and the decision we made was to provide more game/system compatibility, e.g. Saturn, and less emphasis on the snobby ultimate hardware accuracy unless it was actually essential for the system in question. Example, Famicom FDS. We think it's a better move in the long run for the system and gives everyone more options. When you say that without anyone coming at you, you're trying to condition...
You're conditioning the market.
You're conditioning the market to think that that's better. And that's... When you come off like that you're already approaching it in the defensive.
Yeah, and here's the thing: the snobby market is your market when it's $250 for the base unit. Like that is, it's the analog NT market who want that higher quality experience. They want the bells and whistles.
Right.
They're not going to settle.
Because if they weren't a snobbier market, they would be fine with the Retron 5, which already exists,
or the other multitudes of several clone HD consoles.
Right.
Or just grab, they now have coming out all the HD up converting cables for the original system. So there's several different ways to play these games in a modern way now. So if you have to offer something different, if you're going to have a premium markup, if it's going to become $60 per system, which is basically what it is, $60 per system, and that's the highest price point we've ever seen for that, being $60 per system in essence. You have to provide the bells and whistles and get us excited in a different way. Now, the pre-orders are on their website, and they did not do an Indiegogo. Kickstarter, we know you have to have a working prototype, and maybe they felt they couldn't because you have to have a working prototype for all the different modules. I don't know. But they went and they put together on their page this campaign. The rewards they have, I would call not suspect, but strange. Like at 500,000, a different interface, light skin to put on. I don't understand why that would be not just included to be able to replace your skin. I understand you have to have some goals for people to shoot for, but you have some weird ones. So at $1 million, you get the Famicom module set. The Japanese Nintendo Famicom will receive a worldwide FPGA module release on Polymega. So I believe I saw that they wanted the FPGA for the disk system stuff.
Yeah.
That's why they wanted that. So does that mean at the 1 million you'll have enough money to then, I guess, research and develop it? That's what I'm guessing. Or it'll be enough interest in that. It's surprising that would be its own separate module. Does that mean wait a minute, does that mean the Famicom one won't be compatible with the NES one? Is that what that one means? I have to look into that.
I don't know. I thought you said the NES one said NES/Famicom.
I might have been wrong on that. I have to go back and look now while we're doing it. Here's the one that was to me most strange at 1.25 million. Hey Ian, guess at 1.25 million what you can do? You'll be able to play audio CDs and watch DVD movies on your Polymega. That's not going to be included as a base feature. Shouldn't there be any open source off the shelf DVD and CD readers you could put into your basically your computer. This is a computer, and in order to read that to me is such a weird thing to see. Like that is a bonus that people actually. First of all, if you want to be able to play DVDs, that's fine. But that's a 20-year-old technology.
Yeah.
CD's a 30-year-old technology that any computer you buy will have built-in, either something built in or something you can easily download to play those. That to me is strange to see that. That's almost like we needed a filler space for our goals there, at least to me. At 1.5 million, the NEC PCFX CD system, I guess, will be that'll be playable as a post-launch update. So they'll put that in, I guess, for the base unit. Okay, that's fine. I don't know if there's an emulator out there that already does it. If there is, they should have just included it. I don't know. And then at 2 million, they developing the 2600/7800 module. Sorry, Ian, no 5200. No one cares still. So they'll do that. So those are your ones. So, but those are the strangest one, because when you're talking about just software, it's not like you have to develop that CD and DVD watching software. It's just it's just I don't know.
Well, you might have to work it in there somehow, but still. What was my question going to be? Shit. There was something about isn't there like a Philips CDI tier and something like that?
I didn't see it on this page.
Fairly certain there is, or maybe there's not.
I didn't see a 3DO or CDI tier on here. But you would think that in theory, if it's a disc-based, you can just add that later. You can download it.
Yeah, I thought they were pointing it out on the Atari Age platform, but I guess I lost track of that thread.
There's a lot going on there. Now, in terms of interest for a console like this at 250, we spoke about how you're already narrowing down the interest at 250 to begin with. Plus, then because you really think about at that point, who's going to be spending $400 once you add in the modules that they want. So right now, this has been live for a couple days, right? They had problems at first. For a few days, it's been live. They are at $360,000. And you're like, which seems impressive. But when you divide out the per person how much money they're probably spending, so the base is $250. So the most amount of people that could be in for it right now, because some people probably got the bundle at whatever that was, what was the bundle? 460. Some people probably got that bundle at 460. They probably spent a couple hundred more. If you divide 360,000 by 250, pat math, 360,000 divided by 250, it's 1,440 orders at most for the base unit. I'm not going to say more people aren't going to pre-order. They have a goal of $500,000. But they'll probably get close to that 500,000 maybe, maybe. But it's still not a huge amount of people to get 2,000 people buying your hardware. That's not, in the grand scheme of things, that's not like a huge audience, you would say.
No.
For these aftermarket products, because then at that point you have less and less people that are buying each individual module. So it's like, how do you keep the cost down? You know, because the amount of money for R&D for one system is one thing, but now all these different modules you have to do the tooling for and development and production, and your production prices just skyrocket at that point when you have this whole line of what basically are add-on accessory units.
So apparently there are some hidden tiers.
Tiers.
Kevtris says, I don't know how to access it. Check the HTML for a list of the hidden reward
Damn,
tiers.
Kevtris.
they go up to level 20.
So beyond 2 million?
Yeah, it says, don't forget, so check the HTML for a list of the hidden reward tiers. They go up to level 20. Anyways, so...
Well, they're not hitting level 20.
Well, anyways, I can't... I wish I could see the rest of them. I'm not sure how to find it. There are some that they mentioned. Level 10 is an advanced social network for 3.25 million.
Okay.
Level 20 is N64 for a cool 8 million.
They probably just developed that from scratch, maybe, or do an FPGA. I don't know.
3DO is level 19 for 7 million.
Woo! That 3DO, the people claim for the 3DO.
And yeah, Philips CDI is like, I think, 5 million.
All right. Well, it's not official yet. It's hidden in the HTML. It's not an official release. That's maybe just, you know, that's allegedly what it is, according to the HTML from Kevtris. So any, I guess, final thoughts on this? This is what I'm going to say, is that I'm not telling you how to spend your money. I'm not. I personally would wait until this is released to see what's there and what the reviews are before I put my money in for something that is basically a new company providing something that's, you know, a new device. They don't have a track record I can go off of, and you know there was questions before. Let's see this come out, and once it comes out, yeah, maybe put down. Maybe the price drops. Maybe I say, hey, I'll get that turbo add-on, because that's something I could use for an HDMI out and could be nice. So that's what I'm going to say there. The other thing that is interesting about the situation, though, is that they have at least one investor that's put a lot of money into the development of this, which has allowed, I guess, this to even get to this point, which is why they haven't done an official Kickstarter. So investors have to recoup money at some point. If not, they might get angry, and then things behind the scenes might happen, which could get messy. That's a whole other conversation that I don't want to, because I don't know how much, I don't know how their plans are in terms of the investment versus return. I have no idea, so I can't speak to that with any authority. But if there are investors that have put in a lot of money, which they probably have, that could affect how these products come out, or if they do at all at some point. Because if say they don't reach the goal, and they say, okay, we have to go back to the investor for more money, maybe the investor says, no, I'm going to cut my losses and get out. I mean, that's always a potential for situations like this. You know, that it is. Or I'm going to take over, you know, at this point, depending on how much, you know, stake they have in it. So that's just I guess a wild card in situations like this.
Ooh. Oh, I think I figured out how to check this list.
Trying to button this up, Ian. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm not good at this. I'd have to.
You're actually scrolling through the HTML?
Yeah.
That's not the concern to me. I did see something about what if they don't reach $500,000. I think their answer was, I can find it. It said something to the effect that we would investigate why we didn't reach the goal if they didn't reach the 500,000 goal.
So that to me sounds like you're gonna go outside and play someone like an accordion for the extra money.
I have no idea. So that's something.
That sounds almost intimidating.
So I don't know. I honestly don't know what happens if they don't reach their $500,000 goal. Is that in the FAQ? What happens if the initial goal is not met? Here it is. Oh, they will refund all pre-orders and halt additional sales until we can assess a reason. Okay. If the $500,000 initial goal is not met within 35 days, we will immediately refund all pre-orders, good, and halt additional sales of Polymega, trademarked, until we can assess a reason for the lack of interest in the pre-order campaign and attempt to correct it. Does that mean then it's just gone? Like the whole thing is gone? That doesn't say like we're going to come back and redo it. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Is this an all or nothing Kickstarter in essence on the website? Is that what that means? I think that's what that means.
Also, someone made a good point that it's supposed to ship in 7 months, which is a month after you can stop doing chargebacks. So be careful.
Well, they said they're going to refund immediately.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but you're saying if it's hit and it still doesn't come out, you can't do a chargeback after 6 months?
That's just something I saw someone say, so that's just something to keep in mind.
Okay.
Be careful. You're not, as much as people, worry about stuff on Kickstarter and Indiegogo and all that, there's some at least
Limited accountability
limited accountability with where your money is
with Kickstarter, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There you have it. So I wish the folks at Polymega luck in getting this to their goal, but there are some questions I think that people are asking that are the right questions, and especially like I said, when you have a brand new company that's trying to get this to market, these are reasonable questions.
ColecoVision module.
Is that hidden in there?
That would be level 10.
Okay, and that's a good way to end it.